Network. High-definition digital radio broadcasting from the city to the world. www.cityworldradio.com.
Hello, New York. Hello, world. It's time to listen to the man in the know, the man in the flow, AC Lowe. Interesting guests, music and news, and just about everybody's views. Now, live from New York, it's the AC Lowe Show over the City World Radio Network.
Here we are at the City World Radio Studio. I'm Bill Russo, and I will introduce you to our champion of radio, our mentor, the broadcaster of the AC Lowe Show, Anthony LaFaso. He is our mentor, our musicologist. He is an author, historian, retired chief of the New York City Department of Sanitation, who had the distinct leadership position of implementing for the city of New York the recycling program. So he has many talents, many abilities. His book is The Origins and the History of the Village of Yorkville in New York City, and he is an expert on the history of New York City, the Civil War, slavery, and many other topics, especially talk and music, which is what City World Radio is all about, music and talk. Ladies and gentlemen, Anthony LaFaso, the AC Lowe Show.
Hey, thank you, Bill. Thank you for your wonderful introduction. I don't know if I deserve all of that accolade, but I'm really happy that you feel that way, and I hope the folks out there feel that way. We've been broadcasting, I guess you would say, intermittently, the AC Lowe Show, the Bill Russo Show, here on City World Radio. Wait, let me back up. The City World Radio Network, and we've been broadcasting for quite some time. This is our 10th year of broadcasting, and we hope that we bring you the kind of information, the kind of music, the kind of stories, the kind of guests, the kind of people and conversation that you are interested in. Today we're very, very blessed. We have two very special guests. We have, first and foremost, Martha Noel Clancy, otherwise known as Noel, and she will be with us later in the show. We have Dee Rivera, who's been referred to us by our off-times agent, Dana K. Humphrey, and Dee will be here shortly. She's tied up on the public transportation system here in New York City, the same system that the mayor wants everybody to park their car, the other 3 million people, and get into that system in the morning. And let's hope they take the mayor's advice. I wish every single person would leave the car home, and all 3 million people add on to the... You know, when I came down here today, there was a guy, his nose was 3 inches from my eye. 3 inches away. I dare not move or blink, and the guy's a lot bigger than me, and his nose was big too. Anyway, let those 3 million people get on the train, and we'll see what happens. Listen, Bill, I want to talk, and I want to address a subject dear to your heart that you've brought up to my attention many times, and we always intended to talk about it here on your show and my show, and we never got the opportunity to talk about it. And I want to talk about the overbuilding, the overcrowding, the lack of thought in the ongoing construction, not just in Manhattan, but in all of the boroughs here in New York City, way overbuilding, the loss of sunshine in so many streets now, because on both sides of the street you have like a 100-story building. And, normally that would be an exaggeration, but some of these buildings are a lot more than 20 or 30 stories, considerably more. As an example, in Flushing has its own skyline now. And I'm very familiar with that area. I'm in that neighborhood a long time. And Flushing looks like Cincinnati. In fact, it has a lot more big buildings than Cincinnati skyline. And the same thing in Long Island City. You and I had the occasion to be in Long Island City over the weekend, and you saw the number of buildings, the enormous buildings that are there. The Queens Plaza station is only one stop to 59th and Lexington. So it's a great ideal location. But I'm noticing that these buildings, some of them are up 3 and 4 years, are empty. I don't know who's going to move into them. Everyone can't pay $5,000, and all the people that got together, 4 or 5 people like a syndicate, so that they could pay the $4,000 or $5,000 a month rent, they're running out of people now. So I don't know what the resolve is, or what the resolution or solution to all of this is. Obviously, banking interests and the value of property is chasing everyone everywhere. and chasing a lot of good people, decent people out because you just can't pay that tab. Even large corporations don't seem to be able to pay rent. I see where a McDonald's has closed, and normally they paid the rent, didn't matter what the rent was. It just seems that the people who have the property, and I mean, there's a large number of people who own all these various properties throughout the city, they want to optimize, and it's quite understandable. They want to optimize their investment. Some of them are holding these properties a very long time. Some of them are brand new. Some of them have built buildings, and like you say, you talk about air rights, and you informed me. I was unaware that you don't just sell the air right over your building. By some wave of the magic wand, because you have air rights, you can give it away within the next 5 miles. But we'll talk more about that. What's your thoughts on all these kinds of discussions and these topics?
Well, I have to say this, that we live in a free market economy here in the United States of America. It's a capitalistic society. But in any society, there has to be certain rules, regulations, certain restrictions on what can be developed, where it can be developed, and how it could be developed. However, in New York City, it's such a magnet, as many cities are throughout the nation, for people to live in those cities. And New York City is going through, in this year alone, there'll be at least 16 buildings of 500 feet or taller that will be completed. It's one of the busiest years in the history of the city of New York for new skyscrapers. There are currently 9 completed towers in New York City that are over 1,000 feet tall. And those buildings, many of them are taller than the Empire State Building, which has been under the radar, but not as tall as One World Trade Center, which was the iconic building that was built after 9/11. It took 13 years to top off that building to get One World Trade Center finally built. And there are buildings of new height in all over, in Brooklyn and Queens, in the Bronx, and even in the outer boroughs, in Staten Island even, although restrictions are much more stringent in the bucolic suburban areas of Staten Island. Still, in some of the main streets of towns, things are a little more loose, and there are high-rise buildings in the Bay Street area of Staten Island. But we've come a long way, Anthony, since your book, The Origins and the History of the Village of Yorkville in New York City, when every neighborhood in New York City was some type of village, and then it carried over into the 20th century when there were distinct neighborhoods. As an example, the neighborhood of Williamsburg and Greenpoint, Brooklyn now, used to be all low-rise buildings, frame buildings, many of them brownstone. It was a needle and thread, lunchbox pail, tools, working-class district, but that has changed. Don't you think, Anthony?
Yeah, it's changed dramatically. One of the reasons is that the value of property became enhanced so dramatically because of new steel construction methods. In the past, when you went up that high, 500 feet, you needed half a block or an entire block as the base or foundation. But new steel technology for the last 20 or 25 years here in this country, and longer than that in other parts of the world, you only need a 50 by 100 lot. Therefore, that lot's value that was X is now 4, 5, 6, 10X. There is one building in particular at 48th and 8th Avenue on the west side of 8th Avenue. It is on a single lot, and it must be 50 or 60 stories. And there are lots of buildings like that now, but that was the first one that I noticed. It's right across from the fire department at 48th and 8th Avenue, which is a traditional location for the fire department in that neighborhood going way back to the 1850s. But that building is one example. And there are lots of buildings that don't take up anywhere near the whole block that go up 500 feet or better. So the value of the property has enhanced dramatically. The angle of selling air rights, and maybe you could speak to that a little bit, because I thought you could just sell the air rights immediately over your property. I didn't know, like you said, that it could be sold and then that person can buy your air rights and build anywhere within 5 miles. It sounds unscrupulous to me, unethical. It doesn't sound correct.
Within the last maybe 4 mayoral administrations, going back from de Blasio to Bloomberg to Giuliani and even under Dinkins, the rules for air rights, transfer of air rights, have been relaxed. Not every area allows air rights to be transferred. Some are immediately adjoining. Some you can go a little further. But basically, if you have, let's say, a synagogue or a church, and normally in that district, in that area, you could build a building of 60, 65 stories, the church is not going to be demolished, or a synagogue, if that is the plan for the church or the religious institution. Nothing can stop a church or religious institution from selling their property or tearing it down. But if they don't intend to, they can actually sell the air over their building and sell the air rights to a developer next door, sometimes down the block, sometimes in a larger area. And you're right what you said earlier. The engineering breakthroughs that have taken place in the last 10 years are amazing. Stronger concrete, stronger steel, faster elevators that can take a person up without your ears popping, and just take you right up to, let's say, the 50th, 60th, 70th floor faster. And it's just amazing that you can get up that fast on an elevator in a skinny building. And also computers. Builders, architects, they work on what they call a CAD system, computer-aided design. And part of that, they can mechanically determine how high a building can go, what strength the steel and concrete can take, how to design the elevators. And also they now can compensate for the sway of a building by putting weights either at the bottom, top, middle of the building. And one other thing about air rights, when a builder builds a building, they can put the mechanical rooms now on the second floor, the middle 30th floor, or top floor. And the mechanical rooms, they can build them high, and they don't count as for the air rights. They discount the mechanical room. So there's a lot of ways in which developers build. And if you allow a developer to build 10 stories, they'll build 10. If you allow builders to build 50 stories, they'll... And what is surprising to me is that all of these administrations, Republican, Democrat, liberal Republican, liberal Democrat, in between, far left, far right, in the middle, have all acquiesced and gone along with the program in rezoning. And it's really so contrary to the social reformers like Jacob Riis and Lillian Wald and the writers like Jane Jacobs, who said basically in their writings that people need to live in cities that are livable, that activity takes place at ground level. The buildings are mainly low-rise, and there's light and air. But that's not the case. It's a blessing of richness. So the city is becoming more wealthy by these buildings that command tremendous. I think an apartment recently sold for something like $39 million, one apartment, penthouse apartment in Midtown. That's just incredible. And it's going up and up every day.
It's amazing that we're able to bear the brunt of this. The Manhattan and the Bronx certainly are rock hard. They're on solid rock, and there's no limit to what they can build here in terms of skyscrapers. But there's also being done in Queens and Brooklyn as well. I think the only one that has escaped a little bit, perhaps, might be Staten Island. I'm not really aware of any large buildings in Staten Island, but they certainly are in the Bronx, Manhattan, Queens, and Brooklyn. And I think that it's just going to get worse. But I fear that they've gone past that point. I think they've overbuilt. And I think you're going to hear a lot of calling of mortgages, et cetera, et cetera. However, it is not reflected in reduction of rents. They're hanging on, hoping that the next group of young people will come in, pool their resources, and pay the bill no matter what. So it's pretty dangerous, I think, that we do that. And I guess that when we have that kind of effort, that kind of money, that kind of momentum, that kind of power that can manipulate, like you say, almost any political regime, it doesn't matter. They're going to go where they're going to go. And I hope that we see some daylight, no pun intended. I actually hope that we see some... I think
the only daylight you're going to see is probably out in the suburbs and upstate New York. And I'm reminded of a very famous program that they should do a remake of. Green Acres.
Yeah, that's
Where
the
do you
one.
find Green Acres?
I don't even think he could find it. You're listening to the City World Radio Network. I'm A.C. Lowe, and my co-host is Bill Russo, and we broadcast here on City World Radio. It's coming up on 6:15 p.m., and I'm going to ask Jade to cue up a hot number. Let's bring up Martha and the Vandellas. Right. Kick them in, get some.
At least we have streets to dance in.
Oh, yeah, that's what we hope for. Well, we still got the streets to dance on. They don't build streets. Kick it if you got it.
I see? Oh, never mind.
Okay, we are back. I think we're back. Not yet. I don't hear myself.
No.
Yeah? Okay. We're back here on the City World Radio Network. That was Martha Vandella and Dancing in the Street. And we're talking about construction here in New York City and overbuilding of high-rise buildings that don't let in the sun, don't let in air, don't let in anything. And I don't know how much longer it can go on. I guess it's unlimited. I guess there's a street plan or a city plan where we're going to have now these buildings are going to close off everything else. There won't be any place else to stay. And I don't know where people that do all the work, people that clean the street, people that clean the tables after you finish eating in the restaurant, people that drive the taxi cabs, people that work at the radio station, where are these people going to live? Where are they going to live? Let's kick up another tune, because I think she's probably outside the door, this woman.
All right.
Yeah.
Boom, boom, boom. Now they often call me Speedo, but my real name is Mister. Now they often call me Speedo, but my real name is Mister. No, for me to brand new fellas and taking other folks' girls. Now they often call me Speedo, cause I don't believe in wasting time. Now they often call me Speedo, cause I don't believe in wasting time. Well, I'm known for pretty women, and that caused them to change their mind. Well, now mo. That's man mosquito, he don't never take it slow. Well, now they all call me Speedo, but my real name is Girl. Now they all call me Speedo, but my real name is Girl. Call me Mo, some may call me Joe. That's man mosquito, he don't never take it slow. Well, now they all call me Speedo, but my real name is Girl. Well, now they all call me Speedo, but my real name is Girl. And now they gonna call me Speedo till they call off making pretty girls.
Yeah, Earl Speedo Carroll and the Cadillacs, they often call me Speedo. Earl Carroll was one of the early pioneers in doo-wop music. He began in the early 50s in Harlem, working with Bobby Fischer and Bobby Phillips, and also Earl Wade. They formed the original Cadillacs in and around Harlem, in the West 140s, actually. And there were so many different groups in that neighborhood, the Crows and so many others, just really amazing. I think that what we should do now is probably, let's see, you want to play the Ronettes?
Yeah, we'll play the Ronettes, and Jade Zabrick, our engineer, did a cover song by Ronnie Spector and the Ronettes. She did Be My Baby, and it's amazing. Jade Zabrick, ladies and gentlemen. She has a new band called the Train Walkers. She'll be performing at Pianos NYC Saturday, July 27th at 7 p.m. The Train Walkers with Jade Zabrick and her band will be performing there at Pianos. And her tag is at Jade Zabrick, at Jade Zabrick. You can find her at Jade Zabrick. And are we ready, Jade, for Be My Baby? The Ronettes, Be My Baby.
I'll make you so proud of you. We'll make a turn
Yeah. Shades of my youth, shades of days gone by. Ronnie Spector and the Ronettes. Once married to Phil Spector for a long time, with the solid wall of sound, solid wall of music. Phil Spector in 1965 declared that God is an African-American woman who can sing. And he made money off of that idea and premise for a good 30 years. Unfortunately, I believe he's arrested right now. But I'm not going to go into that aspect of it. But Ronnie and the Ronettes, wonderful music, Be My Baby. Maybe we'll ride out with that, Jade, later on in the show. Right now we have our lovely guest here who has not been on our program before, Noelle Clancy. And Noelle, welcome to the AC Lowe Show and the City World Radio Network.
Thank you for having me, Anthony and
we're more than happy to have you here. And I know that you're involved in so many things here in New York City, particularly music, all kinds of music. Isn't that true? And you also are a singer?
No, I'm not a singer.
Are you gonna favor us with a tune later on? Well, I see you've written quite a few.
Noelle is very modest. She is a singer. She's studying music now. She's taking voice lessons. So she's a singer and just needs to roll with it.
I think you did the right thing there, because I think that she has a lot of raw talent. We've produced numerous singers, and I've listened to dozens. And she has a fine raw talent, and I'm glad that she's taking lessons. So that's very exciting. And you can favor us later on, perhaps with one number or two, or none at all, whatever you want to do. But I see you wrote a lot of stuff down. What would you like to talk about?
Well,
no dead air on the radio. You got to talk. Speak up.
Well, I have a love for Italian music.
And what kind of music? Italian music?
Neapolitan.
And how did you come by having that type of interest?
By listening to my friends on Hofstra Radio on Saturday mornings.
Yes.
Joseph Maeta
and you come to study it and so on? You really enjoyed it?
Over the radio. I'm just studying at the moment.
Well, I think that's
listening to the radio shows.
What kind of songs? You mentioned Italian music, Neapolitan music. There are certain songs that associate, and of course there are contemporary songs in the Italian songbook. You know, most people think of some of the traditional songs as Italian Americans. What are some of the songs that really got your attention as an Irish American?
Well, I mean, different Italian songs. I mean, I like O Sole Mio, El Mondo, which is
and the Sorrento?
Yeah.
I heard you do Sorrento. You did a very nice job. You did a very nice job. That's what encouraged me. That's what encouraged me to encourage you to follow your dream. You have the ability and the talent, and you're certainly young enough, you know. So that's really a good aspect to it. That's a great aspect to it. How long have you been singing on your own private? How long?
Well, I just practice, not every day. I don't. When I was a kid, I liked to sing. I used to have a bar at home, and I used to sing outside the bar. And a rocking chair.
What about karaoke?
I love karaoke.
And where do you do karaoke?
All over the place.
In Woodside.
I used to do it in Sunnyside and the Bliss.
That Sunnyside and Woodside's the place to do it.
And you probably know my friend Teddy. Teddy does it over in Woodhaven Boulevard.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I do.
And out in Baby Ray's. He does.
Yeah. And there are all kinds of places out there to do karaoke.
And Frank Morrow.
And you've been to all of them? Have you been to all these places?
Yeah,
the Killarney Castle?
Not the Killarney
Not the Killarney Castle? No. Okay. Well, you see, the one that I knew and you haven't been there.
But it's a big passion. I mean, anyone will tell you that you can't get me off the stage when I go up.
Maybe we'll hear from you on the AC Lowe Show here at cityworldradio.com.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, well, you listen to the AC Lowe Show at cityworldradio.com and City World Radio around the world. And I just want to shout out to a couple of our people. We have, as you know, one loyal listener on Kisker Island in the Aleutians. His name is Lyle Bennington. And Lyle Bennington has been listening to us for 10 years.
Yeah.
The AC Lowe Show, the Bill Russo Show, both shows. And he's now I know and I admit that there's not a lot to do on Kiska, especially in the winter, which is ferocious. The winter is ferocious. The only good thing about the winter...
Are they still burning the whale oil over there?
Yes, the electricity hasn't reached it. But the only good thing about Kiska in the winter is that the bears go into hibernation.
Oh.
Yeah, because the bears in the summertime, they're brutal. They're just really, really bad there. The polar bears are, this is their turf. And Lyle has been in the middle there for a long time. He's a New Yorker, originally from Queens.
Really?
And now he's up there in Kisker Island in the Aleutians. So hello to you, Lyle. Thank you for your loyalty. We really appreciate it. We really appreciate it. It's people like you that are listening to these two programs on a steady basis. First on the Centani Broadcasting Network long ago. I almost forgot about Centani Broadcasting, but how could you? Because we spent many years.
And you have a lot of listeners down south because at some of your programs you were talking about the South, the Civil War, the progress that the South has made, and the lack of progress that the South has made. As a historian, you really have a tremendous knowledge of American history, and you've managed to bring together a lot of listeners from the South to the listenership of City World Radio.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. We have one particular listener in Irmo, South Carolina, who listens to us on a regular basis. She's a good friend, and she's also originally a New Yorker from Queens and Brooklyn, and living in both boroughs for quite some time and working here for the United States Social Security Administration. And she's been listening to us for quite many years, good many years. We also have our other guest here this evening, first time on the AC Lowe Show on the City World Radio, and she is Dee Rivera. And I want to welcome Dee to the program. How are you, Dee?
Thank you. I'm doing well, thanks.
Okay, so we understand that you've just written a book. Is that right?
That is correct.
And the book is called Glambition.
Knocking Down Walls in Heels, #.
And how does that happen?
How did it happen?
How does that happen? How do you knock the wall down?
Okay, so it happens in many ways. Women love heels. We love all types of heels. They give us superpowers. They give you confidence. They make you feel stand taller. And so the whole gist of the book and the idea of the book was to empower women to start their own businesses, the do's and don'ts, and really what it takes to climb up the ladder, not take the elevators, but the stairs, because I don't believe in shortcuts.
Well, that's a great idea. Now, this book, when did it come out? I understand it's fairly new.
It actually got featured on Amazon in February, and we've been doing different tours. We've done a tour with CoverGirl has sponsored us. Bloomingdale's has sponsored us. We did something with another radio show. We've done NBC. We've done a lot of different things, and now we're headed to Dublin, Ireland, where we're going to be speaking and doing a launch there.
Oh, wow. So you're going to have the book take off in Ireland as well?
Yes, that's my first European trip
that's
there for the book.
That's quite exciting.
Thank you.
Quite exciting. But what were you doing in the meantime? I understand you've been working on this idea a long time, and you've been involved with different cosmetic companies.
Well, yeah, I have a PR company. It's called DCG Media Group. And so we do a lot of branding, advertising, PR. And so, of course, this book has been in my heart for a very long time. And one of the things that I see that a lot of women struggle with in business is really like, what does it take to start a business? It's not the way it was 10, 20 years ago, right? It's very different, and the world is smaller now. So social media has made it easier. However, you do have to do your due diligence and really research things and do the work in order to start a business. But I think it's easier now than it was 10, 20 years ago, if you're smart.
Now, that's an interesting concept now. You think it's easier?
I do think it's easier.
And is that because of the ability to network more rapidly?
I think it's because it's accessibility, right? So the world is smaller through LinkedIn, through Facebook, through Instagram. So you have the world in your hands. It's actually on your phone. However, what's going on is that a lot of the Gen Xers and the millennials, it's a different era, right? The Gen Xers are trying to kind of get acclimated or kind of familiar with how social media works, right? And it's not as hard as you think. It's scary, but it's accessible. It's easy once you find out how to work it. The millennials, however, what's wrong with them is they're attached to this, but they're not willing to do the work. And so, not all of them, but most of them. So this book really addresses the Gen Xers, the millennials, and really how to do business and who to surround yourself with.
Dee, this is Bill Russo.
Hey, Bill.
Hi. Could you outline maybe a few of the chapters of the book? What are some of the important hints or advice that you would give a woman first, I guess, to put on the heels, and what we
and sometimes you wear flats,
and you're wearing other things too. I mean, clothing, right? So,
okay. Everybody's wearing clothing in this book.
Great. Okay. So, what would your advice be for someone who's, let's say, starting a job in a fashion industry, cosmetic industry at the entry level?
So here's what I recommend to any woman who's really trying to break into the fashion industry. My background was in fashion. I started as an intern for a magazine, became a fashion editor, became a celebrity stylist, went into PR, and started my PR company. So the number one thing that I tell women, and really anybody who wants to break in an industry, is do the work. There is no job description. Okay, like I always hear, that's not my job description. Okay, it doesn't need to be your job description. You need to go the extra mile because that is what people respect. People respect hard work. And I think a lot of things that I see in this industry and a lot of women in this industry especially, and I'm not trying to knock the millennials because I love them and I have them work for me. And I have some fabulous millennials working for me. However, I think I see this in a lot of Gen Xers where they're like, they think, oh, well, I've arrived and that's not my job description. Or, you know what, that's not how we do things. You have to think outside the box. You can't be in a box. You got to think beyond that. So one of the things I tell women is if you're going to start in the fashion industry, work hard, build relationships, do the work, and also go the extra mile. People like when you go the extra mile. They respect that, and they will give you more work, and that is how you climb the ladder.
I think you're right in that. I find at City World Radio here, at cityworldradio.com, there are so many connections that we make just by the mere interchange of conversation and the guests that we have, and I find a lot of parallels. My own experience and relation to this topic is that my daughter is a graduate of the Fashion Institute of Technology.
Oh, cool.
And she got her master's in fashion marketing in Milano, Italy at Bocconi University, one of the major, the elite private university in Milano. And she had several jobs before that and during that time at Burberry, where else? Burberry, Gucci. She did internship there, and she had a full-time job for several years with Louis Vuitton, LVMH, and she was director of merchandising for 13 Northern European stores, including Amsterdam, Oslo, Copenhagen, Paris, and Dublin.
Okay.
Which brings me to the fact that my daughter had experience before she even went into the fashion industry. She worked in a catering hall. She worked in a Chinese restaurant.
You
she
do
worked
internships.
So she knew what it was like to be in the working world and to apply herself. So I agree with you. Young people have to know how to go the extra mile and have the extra smile, have the personality, and that's very difficult to do with this generation when they're so used to being seriously looking at a screen. Like their iPad, a phone, and not making eye contact.
They're not engaged in human activities. So I do recommend a lot of the millennials to, yes, be engaged in your phone, but also be engaged in humanity and speaking to people and make believe this is the 80s and call people once in a while.
Mm-hmm. No, I think that's
have
very
a conversation with the person next to you. Don't
text
them.
There's an effort, a worldwide effort to not answer the phone.
I know.
It's worldwide.
I think
among
it's
individuals as well as corporations. Corporations are doing it as soon as they were able to, but individuals are doing it now.
Yeah, but it's also
very
deliberate.
hard to get a hold of it. Yes.
It's deliberate because, I mean, that's another topic, but I think what's going on is that, you know, social media was made to get you addicted to it. There was a really amazing story that Diane Sawyer did on social media, and if you can see that show, it's an eye opener because you have to have a balance in your life. That's what's missing in a lot of young people.
How do you define that term GENX? How do you define it?
Well, Gen
who
X,
would that be?
Gen X.
Gen X. Well, anybody that was born in like 1966, 65. And
you're talking about boomers? Boomers?
No, boomers is another planet. Boomers is like way before. Boomers,
You're on another planet.
I'm even before that. I'm before that. I'm way before that.
Boomers,
I'm not.
Boomers?
They didn't have planets in my time. I'm before
didn't have
that.
planets.
They didn't have planets.
You
not
came
yet.
out of the black hole.
Planets came afterwards.
No, but boomers also, you listen, there are boomers that are on on Facebook, right? That's
of course.
right.
Yeah.
So, but I recommend that boomers get on Instagram if they want to start their business, promote their businesses, because you kind of want to be diverse in your audience, right? You want other people to listen to.
Who is primarily on Instagram?
Millennials. Mostly millennials, Gen Zs, Gen Ys. Like, those are the people that are on Instagram. The younger crowd. There are also Gen Xers, obviously, but you will find most of the young. That's what they live by. They live on. They live on Instagram.
I'm on Facebook, and I cringe to think that I would use Instagram and use Twitter, and I could understand.
No, Twitter is actually good for news. Actually,
yeah, but all of these platforms, you could spend
I know, it's
5
a job.
hours a day.
It's a full-time job.
Yeah, full-time
but
job.
they have programs that you could also program all your posts, and you don't even have to be. You just do it in an hour. You just post everything. Bam, it's there.
Yes, that's true. Very, very, very.
But just to piggyback on what you were saying before, in the working world, it's all about personal relationships. If you're going to work, especially in the fashion industry, in a fashion house, you can't really do business.
Oh no,
over the
everything
phone.
is on relationships. And one of the platforms that I use a lot is LinkedIn. A lot of people don't realize that LinkedIn is like a gift to all of us in business, because everybody's on there and you connect with so many people there as well. So it's like the Facebook of business. So I always recommend LinkedIn.
Interesting.
Well, we really thank you for coming here today and giving us this kind of information. And we want to talk. How do they get in touch with you?
Okay.
So give that information out.
First, I want everybody to buy my book, Glambition, Knocking Down Walls and Heels. It's on Amazon. You could also reach me at DEE@DCGPublicRelationsWithAnS.com. You could also find me on Facebook, DCG Group Media, or at Glambition, Knocking Down Walls and Heels.
Excellent. I think that we have to go to another one now. What's the next one we got up there, Dee, if you want to bring that up there, Jade? So we've had two very interesting guests today here on the AC Lowe Show. And you can let it go. Let it play.
I wonder why.
I wonder why.
No, I love you like I do. No, I do. Don't know why I love you. Don't know why I care. I just want your love to share. I wonder why I love you like I do. Is it because I think you love me too? I wonder why I love you like I do, like I do. I told my friends that we would never part. They often said that you would break my heart. I wonder why they think that we will part. We will When you're with me, I'm sure you're always true. When I'm away, I wonder what you do. I wonder why. I'm sure you're always true, always true.
I wonder why. Dion and the Belmonts. Dion DiMucci and the Belmonts from Belmont Avenue in the Bronx. And probably the best opening introduction in all of white doo-wop. And when I made that comment to Earl Lewis of the channels, he said that's the best introduction anywhere. He loved it. He loved it, and we all do. It's one of these things. We're going to play all of 4 records that we played here this evening. We're going to play them again on our ride out. I want to thank my co-host, Bill Russo, who has been a stalwart supporter of this program, and I also support his program. We've been on the air 10 years,
Thank
Bill.
you, Anthony. Your
10 years of program.
Always interesting.
I want to thank Noelle Clancy for coming on. Maybe next time when she comes, she will give us a tune. I want to thank Dee Rivera for coming on. Don't forget her great book, Glambition. Pick it up at Amazon. Pick it up at Barnes & Noble online or any other place that you can get it. But get it. That's the number one main thing. And I want to thank our great engineer. And believe me, Bill and I have gone through a dozen engineers. And we now have the best damn engineer we ever had, period. Period. Not because of this, that, or the other. Just the best engineer we've ever had. We've had some engineers, we had to wrestle with them.
What's her name?
It was really, really tough. But now it's been much easier. So take it away with the last 4. Play those records over again. For those of you who like doo-wop, stay tuned to City World Radio, and you will hear them again.
He don't never take it slow. Well, now he often call me Speedo, but my real name is Mister. Now he often call me Speedo, but my real name is Mister. call me Mo, some may call me Joe. That's man Mosquito, he don't never take it slow. Well, now they all call me Speedo, but my real name is Mr. Well, now they all call me Speedo, but my real name is Mr. And now they gonna call me Speedo till they call off making pretty girls.
Love you like I do. Why do? Don't know why.